The intersection between business development and psychology is one that's very important to me, and the subject of one of the books I wrote in 2019. But today I thought I'd share my knowledge and thoughts from my work as a counsellor and a therapist. One of the therapeutic models that's very popular was devised by Carl Rogers, an American psychologist, and you may have heard of the humanistic approach to psychotherapy, and it's actually also called client-centric. Its approach to counselling, where rapidly establishing trust and a strong relationship is critical. So it stands to reason that the principles will be important for us when we work with business relationships. It's based on three core and on the surface relatively simple concepts of empathy and congruence and universal positive regard. Let me explain a bit. So empathy is one of the core components of emotional intelligence, which most people are familiar with, and my research into law firms in particular said they all recognized it's important, although not many of them screened for it or helped with training and development in that area. But it's the ability to step into the shoes of another person and see the world through their eyes. And it sounds easy enough, but then we know that each person has a completely unique view of the world based on a whole range of things like their culture, their generation, their gender, and a lifetime of their experiences. So we have to put our own experiences and views aside, and we have to become really self-aware about that and become genuinely curious. And we have to learn to ask questions, even when we have no idea what the answer is going to be, and to listen and really hear and understand rather than think about our response. And it means we have to force our brains to behave somewhat differently. We have to challenge our own biases and assumptions, which are deeply ingrained and there to make us more efficient. 180 different cognitive biases, we're going to be susceptible to some of them. So the second area is around congruence. And this is about aligning what we say with how we say it. And authenticity is how it's described in modern business thinking. And it's also one of the 10 attributes of the trusted business advisor. Exploring that a little bit, it's kind of think about those little social rituals we all go through where people say to you lots of times each day, how are you? And without missing a beat, you simply say, I'm fine, thanks. Even when you're not fine, that's incongruent. There's many reasons why we might not be congruent. We might not be, might be frightened of what response we got, or we might not think the relationship is strong enough, or it's one of the masks we wear. But in terms of, we might not care enough about the relationship to probe between a difference we see between what people say and how they say it. And being authentic means we have to be brave. And psychologist Brené Brown talked about the need to be a little bit vulnerable as well, not just showing our strengths. So the third area was around universal positive regard. And this is about accepting people unconditionally, to some extent about seeing the good in people and the positive in them, regardless of how different or even unpalatable their views or behavior might be. And again, we're wired to make judgments. They keep us safe, natural that we will go through thinking about, the people we meet and work with all the time. And we have to fight against the myriad of tiny judgments that we're making. In therapy, it's only when those three conditions are met that the relationship works. There's a similar concept in human resources, and we call that psychological safety, where employees are their happiest and most productive, where they feel they're truly heard and I feel safe saying things. So it can take years to unlearn the way we've been brought up and everything in order the way we feel and think and behave. And it also takes years as therapists to put these simple principles into practice. But developing them makes us mature, non-defensive and understanding people. So it's no wonder towards the end of his possible most famous book, Carl Rogers, on becoming a person, he saw those three principles as being the possible foundation for all interpersonal relationships. And he also saw it as a key way to grow creativity. And when you look at most sales models, you will certainly see those core principles, particularly the need for empathy and listening. You will also see them in negotiation models, even in the FBI's hostage negotiation model, the behavioral change there, where you will see certainly empathy and listening. And even in Never Split the Difference, a great book on negotiation, Chris Voss talks about the need to have universal positive regard. So empathy, congruence, universal positive regards, simple concepts that can take a lifetime to master, but which have the potential to thoroughly transform our business relationships, both within our firms and with our clients. Thank you.